What's going on, everybody? Applersky here, back after too long for me. Um, but I'm back here with my first Star Wars Outlaws video. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in and being patient. I've had a kind of a tumultuous week or so. But enough excuses. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Initially, this is going to be a 4-hour impressions video, but I've gotten about 8 hours into the game, so all of the footage you'll see is probably within like the first 4 hours or so. But I do want to talk about my experience beyond that. But this is going to be completely spoil free, and if you like what I'm doing here, please consider leaving a like. Comments are much more than appreciated, and let's get into it. So this is like the opening cutscene of the game. Everybody kind of knows, the build-up of the story, and especially for the game almost being out technically for a week if you got early access. Some of you guys might have already played and were just tuning in to see my opinion. Some of you guys may have not played yet or just have started out. So I want to kind of like, this is going to be, so first of all, I'm like a 30 plus Star Wars mega fan, 30 plus years. And what I want to talk about in this video specifically is what it does right, what it does okay, and what it does wrong. Now, this is all a matter of my opinion, so you might see me lean heavily towards it's better than it's bad. But I think kind of overall, if you really play it and get down to it, whether you're casual or a mega fan like myself, you will realize that there's a lot of good things in this game. I know Ubisoft is kind of known for putting out the kind of samey open world type games. There was a lot of people's big concerns with this game. I myself, I actually love Ubisoft and their games. Assassin's Creed is my favorite series of all time. So I wasn't really skeptical, maybe a little, on how the structure. I was actually more skeptical about how it was going to be received overall. Star Wars is very near to me, so I didn't want it to completely fail. And so far, I mean, it hasn't. It's getting above average reviews, I would say. And the main problems that I've seen are not really the game itself, it's more of like the technical aspects. So we'll go over that in my experience with those, because I did experience some glitches. It's not a perfect game by any means. But I'll address them as we go on. So the first thing is, I got this game on Ubisoft Plus. Okay, I was planning to buy it, but it is what it is. I at least have access to it right now on PC on Ubisoft Plus. So all the footage that you see is captured on my PC at decently high settings. But in the process of creating this video, I had to compress files, and because I was playing it in the widescreen mode, for some reason it stretched the images, and I apologize for that, but I promise you the game does look better than with the footage you see here. So, and this was also all captured before the hotfix, right? So Kay Vess is the main character, new character. We start off in Canto Bight, which is her home world, and some of you might remember from, I think it was The Last Jedi or Force Awakens. I can't remember which one. One of the newer ones. They go there, and so you might recognize it from that movie. It's heavily based on gambling and the racing, the feathering racing, but what this game does, and I'll start right off the bat, is the Star Wars feel. In no way does it not ever feel like it's completely a Star Wars game. The music, the look of everything, the sound effects, the music. I mean, it fires on all cylinders when we're talking about like a love letter to Star Wars. And that could be somewhat of a downfall for casual Star Wars fans, or maybe you're not even a Star Wars fan at all, and you're just playing it because, you know, it's an open world game and you love open world games, which is totally fine. But I think it kind of suffers as a game in that regard, because for some people it's not going to be enough game, or it's not going to hit, you know, all those open world tropes that everyone expects, right? But what I will say is that it does some special things with the open world that not even Ubisoft has done yet, right? Everyone kind of thought, oh, this is going to be like Far Cry or Assassin's Creed in the Star Wars universe, and it kind of is, I guess, but it kind of goes outside of its own box, right? Ubisoft is known for these massive worlds filled with like checklists, a bunch of, you know, check off the list type deal, right? Well, this kind of switches it up, and in a good way, and a little bit more on that later. But it's not overwhelming once you get into the open world, or I should say, you know, semi-open galaxy, because you do visit, you know, multiple planets, and there's space combat and exploration as well, which is really cool. More on that later. So here what we're seeing is some of the mini games, the puzzle cracking. You got your splicer, you got your data stick, and those are really fun. I enjoy the little mini games. I currently am far enough into the game now where I've turned the mini games off just to like kind of get faster progression, but that's not because I didn't like them. They are fun. Now, moving on to the combat and exploration. So I feel like the exploration in this game is almost on par with like Uncharted, right? Now there were a lot of people complaining about how unsmooth it was, and I was totally on board with that too. I wished it was more smooth, but I will say after the hotfix, it kind of does feel more smooth. So maybe that's just my opinion, but the traversal is fun, the combat is fun, especially the sound effects and just the Star Wars feel of it, right? Like every blaster sounds right, every ricochet sounds correct, like the way the music swells, it all hits those Star Wars notes, and especially like old school, because this is set in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. But it does have some of the, you know, Disney era stuff added in, but in a good way. That right there, what you've seen is making a choice on who to kind of betray, and I've had those options a handful of times, and every time I spend way too long, because I want to try to get in as good with all the syndicates as possible, but from what I'm hearing, it's not possible to finish the game that way. So either way, this is a beautifully rendered cutscene, and I wanted to bring this up because I've heard a lot of people saying that the cutscenes are pre-rendered or CG. I just don't see that being true. Because every outfit that you wear and how Nick's is, you have him customized, it transfers into the cutscene. So how do you do a pre-rendered cutscene with taking that into mind? I think it's in-engine cutscenes that are just spiced up and beefed up. Like tons of games, if not almost every game, does that, right, these days. So, you know, as they are pre-structured, it takes into account the customization you have on your character. So how do you pre-render a cutscene? If to me, that just doesn't make sense. I might be wrong, so leave in the comments if you think I'm wrong or how they accomplished that. But anyways, this is just some, you know, snippets of different gameplay, different mechanics of the game.
Don't look down, Max.
This here is going to show some traversal, and when I mean it about comparing it to Uncharted, like it truly is like it's kind of like a mixture of Jedi Survivor and Uncharted in a way. You know, she's not doing flips or anything, but it reminds me of that. So here we have a very important mechanic in the game, which I think is incredible. It's the experts mechanic, where right here I didn't want to show too much because they're all kind of a secret, you know, and there's a ton of them. I think there's like 9 of them, and they all give you different abilities. So if you have an ability highlighted you want to unlock, it'll show you on screen your progress you're making towards unlocking that, right? And they are all very useful. So for instance here, this is a mission with a different expert, and I didn't want to show you who it is, but I'm like, you can see when I do a certain action, I gain progress towards unlocking the like next ability, and they all have like quite a few. And this is also showcasing how you can mix a little bit of stealth with some plain out action. This is me taking down an Imperial checkpoint, but it's part of like the experts missions. And from what I understand, you don't even need to do those for the main story. Maybe like a couple of them, but I don't know why you wouldn't, because they're so cool, and the abilities that you unlock are fantastic. So here's some speeder chasing. I wanted to showcase this just because I've heard this being like kind of not a lot of people are super satisfied with it. I have no problem with it. I think it's a blast, especially when you start unlocking a couple of the speeder's abilities. A lot of people complain about the controls. I think it perfectly fits well. A little floaty, but of course it is. It's a speeder bike, right? So again, mechanics leaning more towards like Star Wars lore, right? I love the speeder. I haven't had a problem with it. I think it's great. Another thing is, a lot of people have been talking about the insta-fail sections in a negative way. How it mixes like stealth areas with combat. Like, okay, this is a forced stealth section. If I were to raise the alarm here, I would be caught, and the mission would be over and revert me to the checkpoint. But you have windows of opportunity, and if you use Nyx right and your abilities right, you can take down a few guards in a restricted area where an alarm would mean failure. Like here, for example, the last one you just seen in this as well. Use one guard to attack, or use Nyx to attack one guard, take out the other, and then quickly dispatch the other one before any alarms are set, right? This is a beautiful shot of the Kanto, you know, upper world, like casino area. Just a really beautiful shot. Like it looks straight out of the movie. And there's a lot of scenes in this game that look like straight cut. Like, just wait till you get to Tatooine. It's ridiculous. That's where I'm at now. And, like, I don't want to leave because me being, like, an old school Star Wars fan, that's the most connected I am with any of these planets. Although I do know them all. It's just, you know, to get that old school Star Wars feel. Tatooine is awesome. I did a mission in Jabba's palace where there's tons of eye candy and Easter eggs, and I will be doing another video once I finish the game on all the Easter eggs. I'll probably from here on out, most of the videos I do on this, which I plan to do a lot, are going to be kind of spoilerish. So, kind of wanted to get this one out of the way. You know, because there's so much more I want to talk about with what I've discovered in the game. But it would just go into too much spoilers. So, this is awesome. This is a cool shot here when she's climbing up and you get to see... I mean, it looks like... I can't remember which movie it is where they go to Kanto. Finn goes to Kanto with the girl, I think it's Rose. So it might be The Last Jedi. But that just looks like straight out of the movie, right? It's just beautiful, incredible. I gotta also applaud massive for what they've done here. Kind of like getting out of their safe zone with the Division, because this is nothing like the Division at all. It's very immersive and cinematic and has so much love in Star Wars. I mean, I'm sure they got help with Lucasfilm Games, or Arts or whatever it's called, but you could tell. I mean, here's a little glitch coming up I wanted to show. So it's not without glitches, but none of them to me have been game breaking or making me disgusted or upset to where I quit the game. This is just showcasing like how you can, if you play it right, you can get through a combat or a stealth sequence without any problem, and you're gaining progress towards unlocking new abilities if you use Nyx the correct way. Right? So here I whistle for the guard to get near, take her out, him, whatever, put him in the bush. I actually really like the structure. Like, and not every mission has like a forced fail section either. Like, that was misconceived. But even when there are, you can, like I said earlier, you can get through those without triggering an alarm and getting into like some light combat, as long as you're not spotted by other guards, or you just immediately take, like, here. See? This is a forced stealth area, and I managed to get through it with a little bit of combat. So, this is kind of in the end of the prologue where she gets into the vault. Don't want to spoil anything what happens next, but really cool seeing that little eyeball droid come out and the vault opens.
I guess this is where real money lives.
And just the music, the sound effects, again, just everything about like the presentation is freaking great. So I mean, there's a lot to talk about here. I think with the stealth and combat like mixture,
Hey, got the fuel injectors.
my personal opinion is I don't want to like offend anybody, right? The forced fail in this day and age to me is kind of perplexing, because
Sure, it'll fly, Waka.
one of the greatest stealth games, if not the greatest stealth series of all time, is Splinter Cell. And who created Splinter Cell? Oh yeah, Ubisoft. So, and everyone's talking about like we miss Splinter Cell so much and all this stuff, right? Well, we're getting a remake of the first game, and I don't know if people understand this. That game was extremely punishing. Like, you pretty much, the whole game was a insta fail like scenario, right? You had to completely get through all the missions without making a racket, and there were some scenarios where you didn't have, like, you could get away with certain things, but they were few and far between. So I think what has happened is that stealth, like super like stealth games have gone away, and people forget how unforgiving they are, right? But yet everybody wants that Splinter Cell remake, and hopefully they're not disgusted by how hard it is, because I'll let you know, like, to me, you're either just really bad at video games, or you've forgotten how games used to be with stealth mechanics. And here, I feel like it gives a pretty damn good blend of the two without being completely unforgiving. Like, I've only failed a couple of stealth segments, and it was mainly, honestly, because of the AI, right? Like, then that's a fault of Ubisoft. They didn't polish this game up. From what I hear, it runs terrible on PS5. Haven't tried it out, and that's my main platform. So I'm actually glad I experienced it on PC first, because I would have been livid if the game was in the state that I heard it was in. And then even after they patched it, they like deleted everyone's save. Like, come on, Ubisoft, that's just not that's not a good business practice. Even the worst launch of all time technically was Cyberpunk, and I played that at launch, and I never lost my save. It crashed 100 times a day, but never lost my save. So you know, I'm not here to like
Thinking big.
praise Ubisoft. I do have a history with them as a company, so I know I'm very keen on how they do things and how much time they do spend on things. But this could have gotten a lot smoother as a launch. But I do feel like they will right the wrongs in the near future. Also, you know, some of the negatives, I mean, they're just kind of negatives for me. And this is really cool too, like the immersion into space flight and landing. You know, it hasn't gotten old to me, and even though some of it is little quick cut scenes or whatever, you're never taken out of it by a loading screen. It's 100% immersive. It's pretty awesome, and the feeling you get on a freaking Imperial ship, having to sneak around and stuff, like, why wouldn't they make you forced to do parts stealthily? Like, that just makes sense for a Star Wars story in general. You don't want to get caught on an Imperial ship. You're dead. Like, so either way, teach their own, but that's my opinion. And anyway, some of the nitpicking things that I wanted to bring up were, I would have liked like dual stealth takedowns. You know, maybe a little like quick fire like ability, and maybe there are some of the abilities tied to the what do you call it, the expert thing, right? I just haven't unlocked them, right? I've only unlocked a couple of experts and haven't, you know, fully completed their trees, so we'll see. But you know, I would have liked like maybe a dual takedown, like dual stealth takedown, or even combat, or some environmental takedown. Some of those nature type things. Here's a little probe droid, Imperial probe droid. You got to sneak by. I think all the stealth and combat kind of like complements itself pretty well so far. But the customization is another thing that I think is a little bit lacking. There's a ton of outfits, right? But like, I would have. I guess I would have just liked to be able to change Kay's hairstyle. Is what it really comes down to, and the speeder a little bit more. I would have liked to add like a long neck to it. You know, have it more like an Imperial speeder. You know, it could have used some more customization options, but I mean, what I've seen so far is pretty cool. Here's another example of classic Star Wars right here. Just hide in the corner. They won't see you. It just feels like a scene right out of a movie, and that happened like dynamically. So far, I haven't felt like anything's repetitive. I've done quite a few side missions, and I guess the main draw of this game is actually done very well. The syndicate system. But I've heard, you know, it's impossible to get all perfect with every syndicate. But I've been trying to kind of keep it as neutral as possible, because you can earn some really cool rewards through the syndicate system. And all the missions I've done so far have been pretty varied. Again, I'm taking it slow, absorbing the world the most because I'm a Star Wars freak, and maybe it will start to get repetitive. Jury's still out for me on that. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts on how you feel about the game, if you played it. If you're a mega fan like me, I want to hear how you think about the atmosphere, what they did right, what they did great, what they could have improved upon. Always love your guys' feedback, and you know, I leave off the video here with, you know, getting out of harm's way and escaping the ship, and it's just, look how like cool that is, right? I feel like this is better space combat than Starfield. Like, it's very basic, but it doesn't overstay its welcome, and it gets the job done, and it's extremely fun while it does so. Like, the combat is simple but fun. You get that Star Wars rush, you know, fighting these things, all without loading scenes. And each orbit is different. Like I've been to, other than what you see here, I've been to Kijimi and Tatooine, and they all feel different. You never really know what's going to happen once you enter orbit, right? So that's really cool. I can't wait to jump back in and play more. I feel like I haven't played as much as I should have, being a Star Wars game. But yeah, so that's me about 8 hours in. That's my thoughts. The game still does need some polish. And again, you know, that's on Ubisoft. They had, 2 months after it went gold to get this thing in working order. They've kind of dropped the ball on that before. But I don't, I hope they learn their lesson. I don't want to see AC Shadows come out in this, quality. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Am I wrong? Am I being too harsh on gamers' opinions? Like I said, I do it with the utmost respect, and I'm just giving my opinion with the game. So let me know your different thoughts and how you've experienced it, or if you're looking forward to it, haven't picked it up yet. And let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see too. I got a bunch planned out. So just let me know in the comments. And if you're new here, this is your first video and you like what I'm doing, consider leaving a subscribe, because I want to make this as best of a community as I can. And thanks for your patience, guys, and we'll see you very shortly on the next video. Thanks, guys. Applersky out.
Get him, Nix.